Barbara Rosenthal, welcome back. You are one of our favorite of all guests on this show, and we love having you here. You're basically a regular. You're virtually my co-host, and I have really appreciate that for helping keep this show together. So thanks a lot, Barbara Rosenthal. And you're of course going to talk about your writings, Homo Futurus. You're going to describe to us the man of the future, and we're going to maybe take a tour through some of your writings. Is that it?
Well, we're going to talk about Homo Futurus in all of the aspects and ways that I've been working on it, and as a concept, and the trademarking, which means the issuing of products under that label, which I had to expand in order to apply for the trademark, because it really was a concept that
So this is a
became
trademark.
art.
What is a trademark? Explain to people what a trademark
It means that nobody else can use the term on, in my case, paper.
is. Because that's your writer and your work is published on paper. Is that the reason, or am I?
No, the reason is that trademarking has these categories of like a car company might be able to open a car company called Homo Futurus, but
As long as it
but
has
no,
nothing to do with what you're doing, the type of work that you do, writing.
no, as long as it has nothing to do with paper.
Oh,
Like,
paper. Why paper?
yeah, we could. I mean, I do want to talk about the trademarking, but I think that let's get back to it because I mean, as a quick answer, it could be photographs, it could be stickers, it could be, but any of that stuff. But it also could be book titles, which I've had some. And so anything, if you can imagine, and then we'll get back to trademarking and why I did it, et cetera, et cetera. Um, the the concept Homo Futurus is becoming more popular, and the term, that I've been seeing, which is why I decided that I want it, to be mine. Um, it, I write journals, among a lot of other things, and it's where my ideas come from mostly, as I'm musing about one thing or another, you know. And in September of 1982, I was musing about something, and I didn't get that book out of the trunk today. The journals look like this.
Maybe you can show, if you don't, if a moment I can
Oh,
show the inner pages. Is that all right?
oh,
And then the book title,
yeah. Well, the book, no.
like
Um,
that.
Here, wait. Here. They look like this, right? I just often, when I'm having a show that had postcards, I'll stick that on the outside of that particular volume. There are 87 of them now. I've kept them since I was 11. You might know that already if I've been on the show so many times. So it, it these could be anything. Got some work done on the postcards or blah 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 blah, and something will pop into my head. Often a little bit of something like I've been writing several ongoing novels, so sometimes something will say, "Oh, I can give that to this character," particularly when it's things like domestic stuff. So I wrote, Homo Futurus might not be human. And then at New Year's Eve, there was some joking about the term. This is from October to New Year's Eve, and I was pregnant with Santa Clara at the time. She's my younger daughter. She's an assistant professor of electronic arts at Cal State, Cal State in Sonoma. I'm very proud of her. Um, so I was pregnant with, something, and someone joked, "Can I take a picture of you and your Homo Futurus?" Because I had been bandying the term about, and I had also bought some stock in Biogen at the time. And he paid me a quarter, and that was actually became part of the application process of the trademarking, because I could claim that the word actually had commercial value at a particular point in time, even if it was at a New Year's Eve party. Um, that was anyway. I'll get back to trademarking. My idea was that we were going to that Homo sapien, with all of the environmental problems which I and other people were aware of in 1982, that there was not going to be a compatible Tellurian existence. That's the the things of the earth, the plants and the air and the human beings and the other animals, aren't going to jive much longer, and we're at the cusp of of the ability to unravel the genetic code at that time, 1982, and um, I, I had I should check the dates, but around that time, I also made Clothes and Books, which is a video that I used other ideas about this genetic manipulation to the point of the new hominid, that the new hominid was going to be genetically engineered. And I started looking for traits and things that we might keep and we might jettison and we might alter. I avoided thinking about whether we were going to create hierarchical beings or that type of social dynamic. I'm still avoiding that issue. Good luck to the people that are trying to figure that out. I showed my students 1984 for the 22 years. That and Freaks. Every semester for the 22 years at Staten Island, in both of my classes. I saw those films hundreds of thousands of times. So anyway, I don't want to look at the sociological implications of it. They're really grisly, and who knows. But what is interesting to me is what we got to keep and what we got to jettison, and how much of those things. But truly, I haven't given very much thought deeper into each of those things. They I'll see something once in a while, and it'll fall into one or the other category. I actually should start a list of those, because eventually it'll fill up and become something. I almost never just sit at the beginning of a project and work it through to the end. Like always, there's something coming in, and some project, out there. So what happened with Homo Futurus is that I'd have to look at the journals between 82 and 84. But in 84, so somewhere between 82 and 84, I decided that I had to write a book with that, or I had to make that the title of one of my books. So I published 200 copies of nothing with the title Homo Futurus. in this font, which has now become the Homo Futurus trademark itself. And in May, looks like May 1984, it says Barbara Rosenthal, SP, self-published, New York City, and low copyright. This was press type, by the way. I mean, that's, you know, I didn't have to slog around myself learning how to do computers till the Amigas came in the 1990s. You see, in this book, Jack, the pivotal character, gives a speech called, because I worked on this book for 50 years. It is a million. There's 17 actually editions. It's called. Can you guess? Somebody can guess. What the hell is it? Jack's speech. Homo Futurus in the Transmillennial Century. And in the book I'm working on now, I'm afraid to tell anybody the title. So anyway, okay, the novel I'm working on now. One of the characters actually defines Homo Futurus more clearly. But it's been with me all this time. Even though this book was written over a period of 50 years, I always left the speech for the time that it would be published most seriously. I wanted the speech to be a contemporary effort to bring through the whole years. The speech is made in 1985. Those were very pivotal years for me, those 30s. I guess I was born in 48, so you can do the math, but
70s were a great time, right? The 70s.
Well, I was still be forming myself, but I think my creative force really came about around 84, 86, and then it lagged. It lagged during the psychiatric years from 96 to 2005, and then picked up like crazy since then. Late career is really being very good to me. Good for you. So what happened? Okay, so we got this blank book. So I sent it around to. I made 200 copies, and I sent it around to geneticists. And Stephen Jay Gould, who answered me. I sent it to prisoners. I sent it to some other artists, and he answered me. He kept the book, and he wrote a letter, and it said, "Write on," or some words to that effect. We really don't know what's coming, or words to that effect.
Stephen Jay Gould said that.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't fully prepared.
All
but
our knowledge of, you really can't.
You can't predict. That it is a blank book.
That's the whole idea.
That's kind of what he thought this meant.
Yeah.
I didn't explain.
Well,
that
you had
it
an
had.
insight. Are you trained in anthropology or evolutionary biology?
I mostly retain most of the stuff I was taught, and so I was certainly not trained in any formal way. So it's just whatever I picked up.
Yeah, you had such a deep. You had a deep.
Oh, but there was this. I won the science fair when I was in.
Your vision was clear enough to get the attention of Stephen Jay Gould, who we all know who Stephen Jay Gould, one of the great evolutionary biologists of all time.
Yeah. I
progressive
was really
socialist
happy
and
that
a man of the people, the whole deal.
Yeah. I don't think he was thinking genetically engineering, though. I think he was just.
Well, I read his books. He doesn't always think that way at all. That's what the beauty of his books. That's interesting that he would see the vision in your book.
Yeah. So I won the science fair with an anthropological. Here it is.
That's your what?
It's
you.
me. In
How old is
14, I think. Um,
the evolution of man? So you've been thinking about this for a long time,
yes.
since you were a teenager, a young teenager.
At least that age. But not, I mean, certainly, I mean, there are people that probably go into this field who were thinking much more deeply about it. But, that's really, that being so unpopular, maybe I was standing back pretty far and thinking about what all those other people, what is that species out there? I wonder. I had one best friend. I had two or three. I've never been totally friendless. I still have the friend I made when I was 2 years old, and um, at each stage of my life, there have been, maybe 4 or so people that I get close to, but mostly I do everything I can. I told you before, all the phones are unplugged all the time, yeah, to stay out of reach. But I show up to do stuff, and I'm hardly on Facebook or those things, but I'm not averse to it. I just can't get to it. So okay, so you're seeing like 2 versions of this book and one of it. See, it's like a book.
I see that. It says Homo Futurus in blue letters against photographs. It looks like a.
Yeah, but it's like a picture of a book
Right.
on top of a desk or something.
Yes.
It's what I did with this blank was start filling it with stuff that pertain to what we would be wanting genetically engineered to be, or what we really are now, that I just found in newspapers, but also what.
Wait a second.
Okay. Okay, so we got through for the ideas and the insemination. So little by little, I started pasting these things into the blank book, and along with it, editing or typing my journals from that time. December 15th, up all night, received press sheets for Sensations. It's the book I did before this one, 86. Visual Studies Workshop Press, by the way. Okay, spoke to Doris Ach about visiting Herb. He has good days and bad days, she said. Early is better than late. Early is 11:30. Late is 1 o'clock. These are the kind of things I'm picking these at a random. These are the things that I was keeping track of in my life. So I was using myself as a bit of a guinea pig to think about, what actually happens to a person in the course of a day. I mean, I could be anyone who encountered this situation. I mean, how other people ask when they could visit people with cancer. September 30th, have heard about writer Cynthia Ozick. That's when I discovered her. All right, let's shout out to Cynthia Ozick. So actually, I think this is a transcription of. I understand it's edited. Oh, I only have like a few more minutes. Okay. Anyway. So.
4.
Then I filled up this with things that was about what we might become or not want to become. And along with it, I started producing separate images of the things in the book. In very good form, which became I'm rushing through here to the end. This wall work called Homo Futurus wall work. I'm gonna have to get back to trademarking too. This was Carlo Lamagna Gallery, height of my gallery career. December 1988. This piece was shown with 5 artists, all of who became much more famous than me. And it's kind of stayed with me as a theme, and I started, and no one, I had researched it, no one else used the term in 1982 or 4, whenever this came into being. And now I am seeing it a lot, and what I'm going to do now that I have the right to be the only person that writes those letters on a piece of paper, is just not have cease and desist, but just say, coined by, phrase, idea by. I just want, those words applied to the idea that the next species is going to be genetically engineered. And don't forget, one of my pseudonyms is Cassandra on the Hudson. So God help us if if it doesn't come out right.
What would Stephen Jay Gould think?
Well, like he answered me, I will answer him.
What did he say? Did he actually predict? He said it couldn't be predicted, right? You said that earlier.
Actually,
I find it interesting.
If you want to cut for a minute, I can actually go get the letter.
Well, we're about to hear all about the letter, the mailing between what do we used to call writing letters back and forth to each other in the day? People used to write letters. It was a time when they were actually ink or pencil to paper and then put in an envelope lovingly with a stamp affixed to the front with an address and a return address, and it directly got into the hands of the person, and they had to open it up and look at it and read it and then decide whether they were going to answer it, and then sit down with their own pen to paper and write out a response and lovingly fold it and put it in an envelope, address it with a return address and a stamp, and go to the post office or down to the postal box on the street corner if you can find one, and slip it in there, and Uncle Sam does the rest. There was a time, and Stephen Jay Gould, one of the great evolutionary biologists of our era, whose books, The Panda Thumb and The Mismeasure of Man and numerous others, you should be reading them because they're great books, and they tell you a lot about how we got here, how humanity got here. So, of course, Barbara sent him a copy of Homo Futurus, right? Her first attempt at this book, in which the first version was blank. This attracted the attention of Stephen Jay Gould, and we're about to hear the letter that Stephen Jay Gould sent to Barbara Rosenthal in just a few moments. Here we are with Barbara Rosenthal again.
And Robert Frost, who said, and is in this book.
And I'm Paul Dorienzo, and I'm alive. I'm the host of this show, Let Them Talk, on Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Robert Frost is with us from Homo Futurus, and he said, Robert Frost had one driving aim: to make the best poems he could. Well, maybe I'll fall off the trapeze, but that's my aspiration to art. Not necessarily poems, but...
Was Robert Frost one of your biggest influencers, or?
except for not particularly. I mean, I know just stopping by the woods in the snowy evening or something. Um, I'm looking for. I want to end with my favorite photo, my favorite picture from this. This. All right.
There it is. Homo Futurus. That's your vision of Homo Futurus?
I think it's the incredible image for the book. It's a reproduction of a larger painting by my daughter Ola Creston when she was 3. It's in color, and it just sort of screams, primitive humanity. We come from this to Homo Futurus. And it's going to be several iterations. Oh, it's obviously nothing's ever finished.
Thank you, Barbara Rosenthal, for joining us on Let Them Talk, and can't wait to see you back here again to talk more about Homo Futurus or whatever else you're working on. So thank you very much, Barbara Rosenthal.
This is my studio. This is where we are.
And we'll see you next week.